What's up, guys? We're back at Lawrenceville Mountain Motorsports, and today I'm on a GSXR1300, aka Hayabusa. So man, this thing just, before I go anywhere, this thing is massive. Like, oh my good God, this thing feels huge. And it is. Oh my good God, it's a really weird, this is a very weird position to be in. It's not very comfortable, or to me at least. Alright, well, dude, this is a very weird position. Oh my goodness. I don't like it at all. I can tell you that right off the bat. I do not like this riding position whatsoever. I feel like my arms are fully extended. Yeah, this is totally weird for me. Like, I feel like I'm Supermaning right now. I feel like I'm leaned way over and I'm having to almost stretch to get to the, wow, that engine braking though, holy shit. Oh my gosh, man. So the engine braking is crazy on this thing. Let's go ahead and take a left here. Oh my gosh, dude, this thing just wants to launch, like just fly into outer space. Oh my goodness, that engine brake is intense. So today we're on the Hayabusa. This is a massive, massive, massive motorcycle, especially going from my daily rider, which is a 2009 Yamaha R6, to this is it's a pretty big transition. The thing I'll note, like I'm gonna note right off the bat, is the body position. It's just really weird. It's not like anything else I've ridden. And the engine braking is another thing I want to note. It's like really strong. Like right now I'm in a higher gear than I kind of need to be in. The engine braking is not bad, but down in the lower gears and first gear, like you let off and you feel like a lot of momentum is pushed forward as the rider. You just feel really really lean forward on this thing. I don't feel very maneuverable at all. Yeah, like this thing, I feel like I'm riding a whale. Granted, it's a whale that can, I'm sure, go really, really fast, but I don't know, this is just not my type of bike. I mean, maybe it makes sense to be in a vehicle that looks like it's pushed forward, but I don't know. If you can tell, it has a ton of engine under it, but you don't get that visually from the tank. Typically, I look at the tank and how my legs wrap around the tank to tell me like how big the bike is. But what makes me feel like this bike is big isn't the tank, but it's just the cluster. Like, there's a lot of stuff in front of me. It gives me that feeling of like I'm on a massive machine. Let's try downshifting and rev matching. And it feels alright. I don't know, I'm not feeling this one. I mean, it's not, the turning isn't as bad as what like maybe a cruiser would be. Like if it's planted in a turn and it feels real smooth going over and stuff like that. But I don't feel confident doing fast movements with this thing at all. And not to say like the bike isn't smooth and stuff, but just, I don't know. I think it's the body position that I'm not used to. My arms are almost fully extended. To bend my arms at all would put me into a tuck position. And that's just not what I want to do. There's also like no fuel on this thing. Look how big this is, man. This looks big, and it is big. We're gonna go with this QT up here and put a little gas in it, but It's different, man. I mean, if you're a Hayabusa guy, then maybe you like that feeling, that like bent over feeling. I just feel like I'm sacrificing a lot of maneuverability, and something I personally look for in a motorcycle. You know, one of my key things I love about motorcycles is the maneuverability a bike has, and I just feel like I sacrifice that with this thing. Wow, that engine braking is intense as hell. And I know it's a bigger bike, so the braking's gonna be softer. The braking feels super soft. Like, I worry a little bit with like, I feel like I can't stop enough for such a big bike, which is not necessarily a good thing or confidence inspiring. I will say, for as heavy as it looks, when I've got it between my legs, it doesn't feel as heavy as it looks when it's like, when I'm throwing it back and forth between my legs. So that's good, you know, at least it doesn't like feel super heavy when I'm on it, because that would be an even worse of a thing. Alright, so we've gotten gas on the big old Busa, and one thing I noticed that this guy has is the variable modes, which stupidly helpful, especially on a bike as big as this thing, because like, you've got a lot of engine underneath you. I don't want to talk at a fucking McDonald's though. I feel like I'm in like a cockpit. I've got like 18 circular gauge things that are telling me all different types of things. Man, if you get this thing to a point where you needed to get that shift light, that's terrifying. Do you know how fast? I bet this thing will go over 100 in first gear without even sweating. I don't know, man, this tank is massive, but I guess it has to be to like fuel that engine. Jesus Christ. I am pleasantly surprised with the weight, the standing weight of it, like when having it between my legs and stuff. Alright, here we go. We're in A mode. We're checking out the Hayabusa. It's good times had by all. Yeah, there's a lot of, if you're not smooth with the gearing, like with the gear changes, and you do a brake in between, like, I don't know if you can tell with my body, but like if I let off the gas, I get thrown forward a little bit, and I'm not exaggerating what that feeling is like. It's really powerful. It also makes it slightly hard to ride this correctly. Like, you're supposed to ride with all your weight supposed to be held with your legs, and then your hands are just there directing. You're not supposed to put weight on the handlebars. But I find myself putting a lot of weight on the handlebars simply for the fact that I'm leaned over so much. I feel like I'm going to fall forward if I don't. I also noticed that as I'm sitting here riding around on the Hayabusa, I tend to use the back brake more, which is an interesting thing to note. It's just like, it's something I wouldn't even think about, but it's just kind of happening. I'm just doing it by default. I don't know if that's just, it feels more comfortable to use that or what. It's a very interesting motorcycle. It's not what I'm used to. It's not necessarily bad. Like, I know, like, the Hayabusa has a cult following, you know, like people that like the Hayabusa love it, you know, so if you're one of those guys, rock this thing out, like, that's your thing. But I don't know, I coming from a super sport like an R6 or a, you know, a typical super sport, it just feels a lot different. I don't even, they're definitely not the same type of bike. I will say the seat, like, now that I'm thinking, I'm comparing it to a super sport, which is a bad idea since it's not, the seat's pretty comfortable actually. I'm surprised at how the seat feels. I'm gonna pull over here and take a look at it. Take a look at this big ass machine. Let you guys look at it and check it out and hear the stock exhaust. It does have stock exhaust on it. It just doesn't have anything else, any added to it. Look at that massive machine, man. I'm not a fan of all the random angles here, like the hump in the back. I think that looks really bad. The exhausts are freaking giant. It's a really curvy bike. It has a lot of like smooth curves around it, which, I mean, if you're a fan, then rock it out. I'm personally not a fan of curves. I like more sharp angles. But like I said, like, looking over this bike, it is really curvy. Haven't really noticed that. There's not a lot of clearance between the wheel and the Look at the clearance that it has between the back of the wheel and the lower fairing. It does have Brembo brakes, so thank God. I guess you kind of have to have those things to stop this giant machine. Let's rev it up a little bit and let you guys hear the bike with stock exhaust. Jesus Christ. That thing revs quickly. Like, that thing revs to the top instantly. That's crazy. What are the things to know? The throttle is pretty, there's not a lot of play in the throttle as far as like actual play, which is good. I've ridden a couple bikes before where the throttle had a ton of play, and I don't know, it just makes it not for a real smooth riding experience. But having that smooth throttle really helps out. So we're in A mode. Let's I assume it's throttle off, go to B. Yeah. So B is the more toned down mode, I assume, and that's what it typically is. Yeah, a little bit. I can slightly tell it's toned down. Just the way the initial throttle response is. Okay, thank God they have variable modes in this thing, because you know, if it was raining, this would be the last bike I would want to be on, because it's so heavy. It's got so much engine just ready to go and ready to kill you. You got to be careful of that stuff. But with varying modes, like you have A, B, and C. So I rode a Gixxer the other day that had A and B mode, but that was totally fine because that was a Gixxer 600. So you know, there's a lot of engine to play with, but you didn't need A, B, and C. You could have used it for sure, but a bike like this, you know, you've got to have modes like that. I don't see me getting used to riding in this position. It's just awkward, man. I'm not too much of a fan. So if you're looking into a Hayabusa and you typically ride super sports, definitely go sit on one, and if you can, go test ride it, because the body position's really different. Personally, I feel like there's a big difference in body position on this bike than the Super Sport. I'm gonna try to get on the highway, because I assume that's where that's one of the locations that this bike really lives, you know, is riding on the highway. I imagine with such a big windscreen, it'll cycle a lot of air over you, so that could be one of the high points of the bike. So we'll get to the highway and test it out there, and I'll let you guys know what I think about that. Definitely want to test the bike out in the best scenario that it can possibly be in. It revs up really hard in the bottom. Like it goes from it goes from idle to like revving high really quickly. Just weird. It's kind of resembles my R6, but whatever. Alright, let's get on 85. And let's have the little highway jaunt that I feel like this thing needs. And we're in A mode, so this is the bike as it is. Yeah, wow. There's definitely a change. Alrighty. Oh my good Lord. Holy Jesus. Okay, yeah, that's terrifying. Fuck that. That's crazy. Oh my gosh, I want to get off the highway now. Dude, it doesn't stop pulling. It just pulls constantly. Oh my god. Okay, wow. Shit, man. Shit. Like, it was just going and it was at 110. Oh my gosh, that's terrifying, dude. I would not. Oh my gosh. So I just had the bike, I think it was in like third gear. And yeah, I was in third gear and I was going 110, and it was pulling like the bike was going like just 30. Oh my god, wow. Okay, so yeah. Oh my gosh. I've never felt that before going 110. I've never felt a pull that hard going that kind of speed, and that's in A mode, so that's the bike. Oh my wow, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. Alright, so if you want a bike to haul ass on a highway with, this is your thing. I gotta admit, man, that feels kind of scary. Like being on the highway, seeing how fast you're going, and then you give it some throttle and it just pulls you just as hard as it did going 60 miles slower. Wow, that's a really intimidating feeling. Like that could get out of your control really fast. Let's put it into C mode now, and I'm gonna get on the highway, and I'm not gonna go that fast. That didn't feel good at all. But I want to see the kind of acceleration I can feel in C mode, so I know if it's like, I don't even know, dude. Yeah, it definitely, it's toned way down in C mode. Holy crap. That whole like crazy pull that I was feeling it's not gone, but it's definitely toned down for sure. Yeah, because I just gave it some decent throttle and it didn't freak out on me. Yeah, it's definitely there, and it definitely has that engine braking going on, but that whole craziness is definitely gone. I can feel that it still lives in the bike type shit, if that makes sense. Yeah, we're going like 110 now, and that's full throttle, but it's controllable. I hope you guys can still hear me. So you can really feel the engine mode's difference when you're on the highway and you give it some major throttle. Wow. That's incredible that they can take a bike like that and you can be in A mode and it'd be like an untamed beast that will kill you. And C mode gives you all that power, but it delivers it much more chill. Thank God too, man, because A mode, if you're new to riding and for whatever reason you got a Hayabusa and you got into A mode, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. Going 110 in third, and it felt like my ass hit the back wind cowl, the seat cowl, excuse me. This is a really fast bike on the highway. You guys got to be careful with this. Holy shit. And with that, man, I'm going to take this thing back to Mountain Motorsports. Personally, I think it looks hideous. I'm not a big fan of the look at all. It is fast as shit. Please be careful on this bike if you're looking into it and you're going to be doing some highway stuff, because this thing will get you in trouble. The varying modes are fantastic and seem to work really well. The maneuverability is super You lose a lot of that maneuverability having such a big engine, but on the same note, it is a giant engine, but I think the center of the bike where I'm sitting really evens out the weight of the bike, so it doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't feel as heavy when you're riding it. Like with it between your legs, it doesn't feel that heavy. But there is some quick maneuverability that has been sacrificed with this thing. And the seating position, just really weird. Like you're really far up. But, you know, honestly, riding this thing on the highway, I kind of see why. If I was leaned up at all with that kind of force pulling me back, you know, that when you factor that in with wind, like you have to put your rider in a position to be able to handle that type of force pulling them back. So I can see where I can see why they put it makes sense why they put the rider like they did, because now I've got a lot more. Oh, that Honda needs to be careful. I've got a lot more of my body up front, so it's positioned well for when I launch off this bike, because I assume that's what people are going to be doing with this thing. The brakes seem a little soft for such a big bike. I didn't feel confident, you know, pulling on the brakes a little hard. So just be careful with that. If you're a Busa fan, you should, I guess you're into this type of thing. If you're not a Busa fan and you're thinking about it, definitely go sit on them. And like I said, do a test ride if you can, because it's really different. If you're coming from something like a Super Sport, it's a much different feeling. So if you can test ride it, make sure you get in all the modes, because the modes are totally different. and just know what you're getting yourself into. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna take this bike back to Mountain Motorsports. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't get to ride on these awesome bikes for you guys and let you know how I feel about them and my personal opinions about them. If you want to check them out, there will be links in the description below the video. You can check them out there. You can check out their website and their Facebook page. And if you have a bike you want me to ride that I have not ridden yet, or you want me to ride a new model, old model, let me know with the hashtag C2WFR, and let me know what bikes you guys want me to ride. I'll find that hashtag on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You use it, I'll find it. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're a fan. There will be a lot more of these first rides coming to you. You guys have been awesome, and I'll see you on the next video. I need to get this bike out of my hands and back onto a bike I'm used to. This is terrifying. I literally passed a cop going 110 on it. I've used all of my luck today. It's all gone now. So, Hayabusa, there you go. And that's that.